amazing ladies in business. Welcome to the Her Story podcast. I am your host, Kylie King, the founder of Australian Ladies in Business Initiative, and I am so excited today to be joined by the incredible Julie Ross, joining us from Canberra to talk about not only her amazing business, Angelic Inspirations, but she was also our 2025 ALIBI Award winner for the Enduring Brilliance category. Thank you so much for joining me today, Julie.
Thanks, Kylie. Looking forward to having a chat with you.
So let's get started. Tell us a bit about Angelic Inspirations. What does your business do and where are you located?
Yeah, so we're just a beautiful little bridal boutique. We're located in an outdoor shopping centre, literally in the suburb of Nichols. It's a great little spot, lots of cafes, nurseries, and just has a really nice vibe. So we've been there. I've had the business now for 13, going on 14 years, but the business itself has been there for 25 years. So I bought an existing business and no interest in going anywhere. In the short term, we just like the vibe and the feel down there, and it's got lots of nice locals.
So you mentioned you're a bridal boutique, so you've had a lot of bridezillas in your in your
Not too
space.
many, actually. More so, we get lots of really nervous and anxious women. Contrary to popular opinion, bridal shopping isn't something that lots of girls look forward to. In fact, it comes with a whole heap of reservations, anxiousness. Will I find something? Am I going to look good? And for a lot of girls, that's really quite an intimidating thing. So we find more than bridezillas, we get the girls that are really quite uptight about the whole thing.
Beautiful. And you mentioned you've been in business for 13 years. So the category that you did win in this year's awards is for businesses that have gone more than 10 years. What would you say is like the secret sauce that you would share about being in business? Because a lot of small businesses, unfortunately, I think the recent things that they don't make it past 3 years,
Yeah.
let alone 13 years in business.
Yeah, look, it's hard. I think you learn a lot as you go on. Certainly the first couple of years were tough, and there were times when we just had $1,000 in the bank and was thinking, oh my God, how is this going to survive? It's also tricky in bridal. All bridal gowns are beautiful. So you sort of, we had at that stage 7 other bridal shops in the market. And it was finding a point of difference, to be honest, and it actually came down to a lot of learning that we did on the job, which was about identifying that for a lot of ladies, this is quite an awkward experience. So we set ourselves apart, I think, a little bit by the service that we offer. We knew we couldn't change the dresses, and they could go into another shop and they could find a dress very similar and probably slightly cheaper. That wasn't going to be enough. So we did change our whole philosophy as far as how we treated people when they came in. And we've constantly evolved with that. And I think that's been a big thing. It's very much a case of under-promising and over-delivering. And so instead of having expectations met, their expectations are exceeded. And it's just little things like we will always send them a due date for their dress, but we add 2 weeks to that, so that when their dress comes 2 weeks early, they get a surprise, rather than waiting at that 2 week mark for the text to come through. And it saves just a lot of angst, and it is just, I think, the little things. Yeah, it really is just the little things.
I think that I like that 2 week texting too because I can understand that feeling of that nervousness and then go, oh, it's already here. I don't need
Yeah,
to worry. It's a
it's done.
deadline that doesn't have to be worried about. So that's beautiful. And I like that the fact that you've clearly said like there's products, you can get products in all sorts of shops, but it's that customer service, the way you make someone feel that emotional connection that brings them back, which is so important because sometimes when we're rushing and we're worrying about that last $1,000 we've got in the bank, it's all about how do we move more? How can we get more product out there? And sometimes it's just changing the way someone feels about it.
And in bridal, 100%, it's the way people feel. 13 years down the track, what I'm finding now is that we've actually got girls that we did their year 10 formal dress, we did their year 12 formal dress, and now we're doing their wedding dress. So we actually, you sort of get to know them, and that's been really lovely. And that's only sort of happened over the last couple of years. You know, they're now at an age where they are getting married, and I see the names come through and I think, oh my goodness, we did their formal dress. It doesn't seem that long ago. And often they'll they'll come in and say, look, we just couldn't think of going anywhere else. And so even though in bridal you might not think there's repeat business, there's actually been a lot of repeat business for us. We get the bridesmaids, we get the mothers. So instead of actually treating it as though, okay, well, we've got one bride and she's going to be here once, it's actually not the case at all.
Beautiful. I didn't even think of that. Like now that you've said it, yeah, but formals, I was just thinking where I got my dresses. But yeah, it is very much like, yeah, if you find a right place, you'll just keep going back.
Absolutely. And if they still get a nice experience every time they come back, they'll come back again.
Beautiful. And you mentioned that you actually purchased, so you've purchased the business 13 years ago and then taken it to new levels. What was what made you buy a pre-existing business? Because a lot of people tend to go, oh, I'll just start my own thing.
Yeah.
But you went in there and went, I liked the vibe, I'm going to purchase it.
No, it was a midlife crisis. So I was in HR. My background is airlines HR sort of training, and I had always wanted to sort of work for myself. And it was more about the challenge of can you do it, all of those things. And so I was looking for businesses, and this business was for sale, and it's where I bought my wedding dress. And I thought, oh, that'd be kind of cool. But I really didn't have any experience, any expectation. I just thought, oh, well, we'll see. And by that stage, it was a pretty rundown business. The lady who had it had it. So she started the business, and it started as her just making veils for people. And it sort of grew from there. And then her husband was also in the same business. So half of the shop was bridal and half of the shop was flameless candles and giftware. So it was really confused. And they'd been trying to sell it for a while and they really hadn't had any bites. And so I went down and I was thinking to myself, oh, this would just be such a fun, positive job. And so we made just a ridiculous offer. And they kind of took it. And we were like, oh, okay. And my husband was actually on a boys' weekend in Perth, and I rang him and I was like, oh, I think I've just bought a bridal shop. He's like, oh, what? I'm like, yeah, no, I think we now own the bridal shop. So one of the big things for me was obviously it was nostalgic. I did think it would be a lovely industry to be in, but also I never wanted to buy myself a job. If I was going to buy a business, I actually wanted it to be something that I could grow, make my own, change, and actually get the challenges of actually running the business. And it has certainly been that, but I haven't looked back. It's been one of the best decisions. When I bought the shop, my girls were like 2 and 3, and I look back now when people ask me that question, I kind of go, my God, what was I thinking? Like, I went in with no knowledge. I bought a rundown business in a local shopping centre with 2 preschool-aged children, one still at home 4 days a week. And I'm really not sure what I was thinking, but it's paid off.
And now I'm sure like your children have got formal dresses ready to go. And you can take them through the steps now, which is
Yes,
awesome.
so Abby, my oldest, she's done Year 10 formal. She's got her Year 12 formal next week. She also works in the shop, so she's been one of our formal dress consultants this year. That's been really tricky for her because she's seen lots of girls in lots of dresses, and it's made it really hard for her to actually decide on a dress because it's like, oh, but I've seen that on such and such, and it looked so much better on her. I was like, it did not. But yeah, look, it's been a nice, it's a nice journey. So I've got one more to go. I've got Alexis next year for Year 12 as well. So yeah, that's been good.
Beautiful.
The wedding dresses yet though.
No,
No,
they can hold off. Just the
hold
formal
off
dresses.
on
But
that one.
they know where to go when the wedding dresses are ready.
Definitely, yes.
Um, so over 13 years, you mentioned there's been a couple of challenges. What would you say has been your biggest challenge so far?
Yeah, so I mean, look, COVID was a killer, but
Yes.
there was lots of businesses that really struggled in COVID. We were fortunate in that people still got married; they just did it differently. And so my thoughts were, okay, well, we have to do it differently. So we did kind of adapt the rule of one person being allowed to visit at home. So we actually did a few fittings here at home, just with girls that needed dresses. We also did an honesty system with some of the girls, and we actually posted them some dresses for them to try on at home. So it was about thinking outside the box. COVID definitely was the biggest challenge, But in the early days, cash flow, huge challenges. As I said, I bought a rundown business that was half bridal and half candles. So the first big change for us was finding new suppliers, more modern dresses, and that requires lots of buying. And so I did find cash flow was really, really tricky because there was no way we were going to sell products unless I bought products. And wedding dresses are not a cheap buy. And you can't just have one or two. And when there's 7 shops in Canberra, you kind of know that if you haven't got the product range, they are going to walk out the door. I talk about customer service all the time, but bottom line is you've still got to have the product that they like. A great customer service experience isn't enough if your dresses are ugly, dirty, not modern. So that was really hard, and that took a couple of years to sort of really establish. We started doing things like allowing girls to lay-by dresses so that our cash flow was actually at least incremental instead of like just a deposit and then, final payments. We had regular cash coming in, and that was really, that actually proved to be something really positive as well. Staffing, always a challenge. That's been a learning curve for me. My background's HR, and I was actually quite surprised at how difficult it was to get someone to be able to work successfully in retail. And the initial model was actually employing people that had retail experience, and then that just became a flat no. So I actually just look for people. I look for people that are warm, friendly, excited, and someone that can build a rapport. I can actually teach them the rest, and that's been a huge learning curve. But the way Bridal works is that we have a sample dress and we measure and then order in off that. And for a lot of people with retail experience, they're just used to going up to the rack, and if there's a size 8 there, they sell it. And if there's not a size 8 there, they don't sell it, and they don't then take it to the next level. So that's been a challenge. What else?
I have to ask, you mentioned your dresses and having to keep modern dresses. Is there one you kept for nostalgic purposes? Like you're like, this
Yes,
is just, I don't know, like old lady dress here that I've just kept. No one buys her, but we
absolutely.
just keep her there. Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's a couple of just favourites, and you may have sold 20 or 30 of those dresses over the years. And it was one of those dresses that you always knew, even if it wasn't their love dress, it was going to be a dress that made them feel good and look good. And sometimes that's all it takes to turn the whole appointment around, is if you can put a dress on someone and they can look in the mirror and go, oh, hang on a minute, I actually look really nice in this. Then from there on, things move at a better pace. So yes, I've got those dresses, and they still sometimes can be my go-tos if I'm like, okay, I need this girl to just look or feel great in a dress. Yeah, so yes, there's a couple. And they'll stay.
So if we flip it over from challenge to achievement, what would you say has been your biggest achievement so far in business?
Yeah, last year, so there's an organisation called the Australian Wedding Awards, and they have local awards every year, and then they have a national awards. So they implemented the awards in Canberra 8 years ago, and we have one every year for 8 years, which is, yeah, absolutely. And, we don't win on complacency. We know that every year there has to be a change for us to be able to win the next year. So it is always about the growth there. But then last year at the National Awards, we were finalist in 3 categories, and we won Best Bridal Boutique in Australia, Best Bridesmaids and Formal, and Best Bridal Accessories. So we took the clean sweep. From a morale point of view, it's fabulous. From a recognition point of view, it's fabulous. Having those awards on the front counter when people walk in the door, it automatically gives you credibility. People go, oh my God, you won the national awards. So it speaks volumes, but it also comes with lots of hard work. There's people out there that think, the award schemes are all a bit of a gimme. I think differently. I think there's huge benefit.
And especially to have those ones that say they're from a wedding industry awards, which is just beautiful. Like even just that title, because people do think awards are gimmick, but when you're looking at someone's trophy, it
Yep.
does bring in that sense of, wow, there's integrity here. There's, like, look at the hard work they've done. They've been recognized from someone outside all that
Yep.
wedding industry, which is
And my
amazing.
favourite thing is when someone walks up to the counter and goes, "Oh, look, Mum, they've won this award," and then I get and I can understand why, and that's great. That's that nice vibe.
That's beautiful. So speaking about awards, I did mention that you won our 2025 Enduring Brilliance category, which is for businesses that have been over 10 years. I just want to know, is our trophy safe somewhere?
Yes, right on the
Yes.
front counter, right,
Beautiful.
front and
Beautiful.
centre, absolutely. But we did joke
And
about
you,
the fact that it could be a weapon.
yes,
Yes,
100% it can be a weapon.
yes,
So maybe just move it. Not that you would get bridezillas, but just shift it to the
yeah,
side.
behind the counter, nice and safe.
So you were able to come to the awards night. How was it for you?
Fantastic. It was a great night. Obviously, super well organised, which I thought was fantastic. It rolled really beautifully, but so many inspiring women and so many fantastic stories. Both the winners, but also the people we just sat at the table with. So many diverse businesses, so many different stories, and how people started and why they started, how long they've been doing it for. Yeah, it was really inspiring, but it was also just a really nice celebration as well. So, no, I loved it.
Beautiful. Hoping to bring it to Canberra. We just need some more Canberra businesses to come in and join you, and then I can bring it down to Canberra. I can get my dress at your shop during
Absolutely.
the awards
Lock it
night.
in.
So,
Yep, definitely.
so being in business for 13 years, and as you mentioned, you had such little babies when you started. What motivates you to keep going? Like, what made you get up every morning and go, I've got to keep doing this, especially when you had to turn your business from, well, it was half candles, half dresses, into what you wanted to be? What kept you going?
Um, I really, really loved it. And I really loved the challenge of actually running my own business and making the decisions and actually having to be the person where the buck stopped, both good and bad. There were things that went way wrong. That motivated me, but I also got really inspired by the stories of the customers that we had as well. And I got so much more out of that than I expected to. And I've mentioned that we have girls that are repeat clients, but you do actually get to know them, and I got I love it when people said, "Oh my God, you've just made this so easy. Oh my God, this has been such a nice experience." And I guess that was an added bonus that I wasn't kind of expecting. And it does inspire you. It does. This year we've done 545 formal dresses, which means 545 teenage girls and their mothers. Um, I don't probably need to go much further than that, but again, it is just that sense of you're doing good, you're doing something nice, you're making these people feel good. Not everyone is a picture perfect size 8, and so sometimes it's like Tetris. Sometimes it's like playing with, okay, we need to find the right dress for the right person, and working so closely with someone to do that. It's really a nice feeling.
Beautiful. So, if you're willing to share, is there a big, hairy, scary goal for Angelic Inspirations? Like, where are you hoping to take it, or are you just
Yeah.
happy with what you have?
Yeah, so this has been a tricky one because if you ask all the experts, we should be expanding and we should be growing and we should probably be moving into a bigger area. Not going to happen. Part of the success of the business is the fact that it is a little boutique in a little local shopping centre surrounded by cafes. There's no intimidation when people walk in the door. In fact, that it's not the most polished boutique, but there's a warmth that comes with it. And I honestly don't think I could reciprocate that by making it bigger and better and shinier somewhere else. We've probably expanded as much as we can. We did extend, fitting rooms and created another fitting room. And I think there's always change. So while we won't be moving or expanding, there's always going to be different and better ways of doing things. And we recently moved to an online booking system, which has been fabulous. So there's just looking at different ways of doing the same thing but doing it better. Abby, my daughter, is sort of, she's working in the shop now, so she's going to sort of, become a little bit more. She's finished year 12, so she's going to do a little bit more work. It's not going to be her career path, but she's going to do a little bit more work. So at least there's a bit of a succession plan there as well. But for the most part, it'll just be doing what we're doing, just slightly differently each year.
Beautiful. Is there any advice you wish someone had given you when you purchased the business that you were like, oh, Julie, don't do that, Julie, do this? Anything that you would pass on to other people starting a business?
Probably not so much the do this or don't do this, but I guess you're in for the long haul. You absolutely have to be. I don't think you can start or go into a small business. I joked, I had a 5-year plan and we're now times 3. So I'm not a very good counter, but I couldn't have achieved what I wanted to achieve in 5 years. The business probably only became really viable at the 5-year mark. So that's not the time to pull out. And I think, for the most part, follow your gut. I had lots of experts telling me how to do things. I had lots of suppliers saying, oh, maybe you should look at doing this, maybe you should look at doing that. But it didn't feel right. And I think when you run and own your business in your own local area, it's perhaps not the same as running it in Sydney or Melbourne. So while I was always happy to take advice, I still went with my gut, and I think that pays off. And I didn't disregard the advice, but I took snippets of it. It just was like, okay, well, I see where you're saying, and this might work, but this part won't work in this market. And I think, you've really got to know your market and you've got to know your customer base to be able to make those decisions comfortably.
Beautiful. Now, you mentioned earlier you have sold 545 formal dresses so
This
far
year.
this year. This year. So, if you had a tip for the listeners, because clearly, dress expert, say, for example, next year's awards night, we're looking for awards night dressing. What would be your tip for the listeners on what to look for in regards to the perfect dress, or where to shop, or where to find it? I know a lot of people tend to go on Temu and Shein, and then they end up with not very nice dresses, or it doesn't look like how it said it was going to look like. So what
Yep.
would be your tip or expert advice on that?
I think online shopping's great, but there's 2 things I don't think you should ever buy. Well, 3. Swimwear, wedding dresses, and evening wear, because they are 3 things that you need to try on and you need to see on your body. If I had $1 for every time someone came in with a clear picture of what they wanted in a wedding dress and then walked out with the polar opposite, I would be a very rich lady, because you have to see it on your bumps and lumps and curves and all of those things, not on the AI model. It's For me, I always say to the girls, you should never choose a dress based on logic. You should always choose a dress based on how it makes you feel when you look in the mirror. And I do maintain that. And so therefore, if it is the complete opposite of what you thought you were going to be wearing, but you look in the mirror and go, whoa, look at me, that's a great thing.
Beautiful. That's a good tip. I love that. So, Julie, where do we stalk you? Where do we find, come and try on dresses?
Yes. We have a website, www.angelicinspirations.com.au. We're on Insta, TikTok, all of the social media platforms. And our retail outlet is at Federation Square in Nichols.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to pop all those links below and for sharing your journey. And congratulations again on winning our weapon trophy that you have behind your counter. But yeah,
Yes.
thank you so much for sharing everything. It was been great to have you on.
Pleasure. And thank you very much. These awards are fantastic. I think it's great to actually get exposure, to so many fantastic women and so many fantastic businesses. So I will be looking forward to what happens with ALIBI for the next 12 months as well.
Thank you.